Welcome to Trending USA Analysis, where we dive deep into strategic moves on the global stage. Let's kick things off with Trump's recent remarks.
I'm excited to jump in. So he said we'd buy Greenland and even talked about Canada becoming like the 51st state.
Exactly, and he also mentioned bringing the Panama Canal back under American
Yep,
control.
right.
It sounds, well, almost outrageous on the surface.
Right. At first blush, these statements seem almost irresponsible, but there's more to it, isn't there?
Absolutely. They argue that these comments aren't just off the cuff, they form part of a larger fortress strategy. You know, a strategy aimed at keeping America's backyard secure in a rapidly shifting world order.
I mean, it's like saying when the world stops paying attention, secure your own house first.
Exactly. It's like taking a step back from global leadership and focusing on regrouping your territory, almost like a consolidation tactic.
Right, which brings us to the idea that America's unchallenged dominance over the last 3 decades is now under threat. With rising powers like China and Russia.
Yes, indeed, especially in areas such as artificial intelligence, 5G, and quantum computing, where our rivals are now sometimes even ahead of us.
So, how do these aggressive proposals, like buying Greenland or absorbing Canada, actually tie into a broader strategy? They sound extreme.
It's a strategic shift, really. Think of it as America's way to defend its economic and military interests. Greenland isn't just an icy island. It's rich in rare earth minerals and holds a critical position in the Arctic.
Right. And when you add Canada into that mix, you're looking at a self-sufficient economic powerhouse in North America, right?
Precisely. It's all about consolidating resources so that even if global trade goes haywire, the region remains resilient.
Yep, exactly. I get that, but I do wonder, aren't these ideas a bit too isolationist? I mean, isn't America supposed to be a global leader, not just a regional strongman?
That's a fair point, but look, many see it
Fair
as a
enough.
strategic retreat, an effort to secure home turf when, as you said, the global balance of power is shifting. It's like a defensive maneuver rather than pure isolation.
Sure, that makes some sense. At the very least, these remarks serve as a signal. The US is worried about challenges to its leadership.
Exactly. And speaking of challenges, let's talk economics. Remember how the dollar once ruled global trade? Well, it's now coming under serious pressure, particularly with the BRICS countries like Saudi Arabia and the UAE joining the fold.
Right, it's a major shakeup. Yeah, it's almost like an economic earthquake. The dollar's power is waning as countries explore alternatives, which undermines America's borrowing and, well, its influence.
Right, and within the states, inflation and high interest rates are already squeezing the middle class, making it harder for people to achieve, say, the American dream of home ownership.
I hear that. So then you've got a scenario where external pressures like trade wars and rising tariffs create internal friction.
Exactly. Tariffs on imports like Chinese steel might protect domestic producers, but they also drive up costs for companies that rely on those materials, and ultimately, consumers bear the burden.
And that sets off a chain reaction. Domestic discontent, increased public support for aggressive leadership, and, well, more risk taking.
Precisely, it's like a feedback loop. You'll notice these aggressive policies are not solely militaristic, they reflect a broader commitment to economic protectionism.
Yep, exactly. And speaking of militarism, did you catch how Trump's speeches have been pushing for a major defense spending increase? A jump by 50% to around $1.5 trillion, right?
Yes, and that's staggering. To put it in perspective, even the combined defense budgets of countries like China, Russia, India, and several European nations don't quite match up.
Right, that's a huge gap. But here's a critical point. Wouldn't such a massive defense expenditure, while boosting military might, risk alienating traditional allies?
Absolutely, and that's the conundrum. Allies, particularly within NATO, are now being pressured to increase their own spending. Trump's argument of, if I am protecting you with billions, you should pitch in at least 2% of your GDP isn't exactly winning hearts everywhere.
True. It's almost as if free protection is off the table now, and that can sour diplomatic ties.
Right, and while a robust military can signal power, it doesn't necessarily translate to soft power or lasting alliances.
Yeah, that's the challenge. So are we saying that America, in trying to defend its fortress, might inadvertently be hastening its own isolation?
That's a strong possibility. If the US leans too heavily on military solutions and economic protectionism, it could find itself estranged from key partners and the global
I see
system.
what you mean. And then, with a declining dollar and reduced influence in international trade, America's overall position could, well, deteriorate even further.
Exactly. It's a precarious balance. The aggressive, almost hawkish policies seem designed to secure immediate gains, but they might not be sustainable in the long run.
Right on that. Now, I respectfully challenge one point. Isn't there an argument that military strength and economic nationalism can sometimes rejuvenate national pride, even if it's short term?
That's a good challenge. Sure, boosting defense spending and rallying behind nationalist rhetoric can energize a populace, but the risk is that it might mask deeper systemic issues. It's like if you renovate the wallpaper while the foundation cracks, eventually the whole structure is at risk.
Well put. And adding tariffs to the mix might seem appealing domestically, but history shows that trade wars usually backfire in the interconnected global economy.
Right, tariffs can spark retaliatory measures, which leads to supply chain disruptions and ultimately hurt everyone. It's one problem creating 10 more.
Yep, that's the crux of it. So what does this all mean for America's future? Are we set on a course of regional dominance at the expense of global leadership?
That's the million-dollar question. History teaches us that transitions from unipolarity to a multipolar world are rarely smooth. The US needs to redefine its role without resorting to excessive militarism or economic isolation.
Absolutely. And if it doesn't manage that transition peacefully, the risk is inevitable conflict or an accelerated decline.
Exactly. The choices made now, whether to invest in diplomacy and innovation or to double down on aggressive policies, will shape America's global standing for decades.
Right, the stakes are incredibly high. It almost feels like a crossroad. Will America adapt like the British Empire once did, or face a collapse reminiscent of, say, Rome?
That's it. The challenge is not just about maintaining power, but doing so with dignity and sustainable strategy. Otherwise, a fortress strategy might protect the backyard for a while, but it doesn't guarantee long-term survival.
Yep, could be a ticking time bomb. And as global dynamics shift with the rise of the BRICS bloc and allied shifts, the US must balance aggression with collaboration.
Exactly. While the aggressive rhetoric may seem like a desperate bid to hold on, it risks alienating partners who are vital not just for defense, but for economic stability.
Absolutely. So, wrapping up, aggressive policies like buying Greenland or absorbing Canada, while startling, are part of a broader and, yes, somewhat desperate attempt to stem the decline of American influence.
Right. It's a complex dance of power, economics, and national pride, a strategy that might hold in the short term, but could, in the long run, lead to isolation and conflict.
Exactly, well said. It's a fascinating analysis that makes us question, can a superpower reinvent itself peacefully, or does every power struggle inevitably lead to turbulence?
Indeed, this strategic crossroads will define the next chapter in global history. Thanks for diving into these tough questions with me.
Yes, thank you indeed. Until next time, let's keep questioning and exploring how global strategies shape our world.